That's what he's singing.
Daylight
Sounds like you're
come
sitting right
and we
behind
want
me.
to go home.
I sing that song on the boat
6 foot,
every
7
day.
foot, 8
3 or
foot
4 times
punch.
a day.
What? You want the mic closer to his mouth?
Oh, you didn't get the singing.
I love the singing.
No, he didn't get it on the recording. He got my beard scratching.
Is it? We good? Yeah. All right. Well, listen. You know, I'm going to have to remember my whole intro because I didn't print out my cheat sheet. Oh, that's okay, though, because I think by now everybody knows that this is the Connected by Water podcast fueled by Papa's PLR Rum.
Whoop.
Remind you never to be a spectator. Today's special guest, Captain Bouncer Smith.
Oh, boy. I think he's been in the sauce already. We're in trouble.
No, I'm just a little tired from being up early from fishing with you all day. Right? Carlene's behind the bar. Hi, Carlene.
Hi, Dennis.
Carlene, you looked so ravishing the other night.
Did I? Thank you.
We went to the IGFA. Well, you were there. I mean,
Yep, I was there.
what a great evening. And then I went the next night. I went to the Billfish Foundation, and it was another great evening.
Yep, two fantastic organizations that we
gosh, I
all
tell you
support
what.
and love.
No doubt about it.
Yep,
And the people that they recognized. I mean,
yep.
really, really a great year this year.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about it. It's pretty cool, boat show week, all the whole fanfare that surrounds it, and I personally like doing all of that stuff than actually going to the show.
Oh, yeah. I always seem to manage to miss the Guy Harvey event.
I was at it this year.
How was it?
I was at it this year. No.
How was it again?
He was Guy was recognized for his scientific efforts.
the Guy Harvey event was great. I got to hang out and talk with him for a little bit, and
Well, he was recognized at the Billfish Foundation.
Yep.
He was one of their award recipients. His was for science.
Yep, he's done a
And
lot of good work. He's done a lot of good work with that foundation.
Paul Spencer was recognized for the John Rivovich Award, which was so fitting for a boat builder to get the Rivovich Award.
Right. Yeah, well, he told that story that he told at the IGFA, because he got accepted into the IGFA, the Tommy Gifford Award, Lifetime Achievement Award. And then he did tell that story how he got so deathly sick not from seasick, but sick from just being sick.
Food poisoning.
Yeah, from food poisoning.
They repeated it to Billfish.
Did they repeat that?
It was too good to pass up.
So he's there, and he's like, he's thinking he's going to die, and he's like, please don't let me die in a Rivovich.
Well, he built Spencer yachts, and actually it was a Viking.
Oh, a Viking. You got me messed up because you said the Rivovich Award. Yeah, that's why I was thinking that.
He built Spencer yachts, and here he is with food poisoning on a Viking, and he's going, God, don't let me die on a Viking.
That was the best story of the night.
No, the best story of the night was Ray Rocher's kids.
Well, I should say that was the funniest story of the night.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. It was.
You always get me with the kid thing. Yeah, you're right.
Well, I mean, look at my new book. It's dedicated to kids.
Your new book has all cool things about kids and fishing in here. And you are, listen, as someone who takes my kid fishing with you, right, I feel this is really, really a great book here that you got in your hands. And we're going to talk all about it today.
Betcha.
But before we do, what? Did I say something wrong? See where she's going here?
What did you say?
I don't know.
It's only when Bouncer's on, man.
All right, Carlene is here. She's ready to roll. She's ready to rock. But before we get
I think she feels I step on you a lot.
I don't know.
I think we all do.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
It's going to be a tough night.
It's going to be we got a tough crowd in the house here.
These inside jokes will kill me. Are we ready to start now?
Yeah. So right now we're going to talk about this week's do-gooder, right? And with a fellow representative of Starbright Solutions in my midst, this week's Starbright do-gooder is Kathy and her dog George. The boxer filled 2 buckets of mangroves out of their canal and delivered them to Corey's front door. Winner, winner. So, Kathy, James Granger, you win the Starbright Bucket of Fun, which has all the salt off and the citrus cleaner and the degreaser and the fuel treatment.
While we're talking about do-gooders,
and the reggae sponge.
People should not hesitate to nominate people for the do-gooder.
Right.
And I guess they could call you up and...
So they can call us up. They can any way they can contact us. Primarily, most people contact us through Instagram at Dennis Friel Art, at Connected by Water, at SEA Red Wine, which is C Red Wine, which is Corey's Instagram handle, or even go to at starbright_com and just say, hey, I have a do-gooder this week. This is who it is, and this is why they're a do-gooder. That's all you got to do. Tell us your short story on it.
Because it's a good thing to spread it around. You get more people involved in it.
Yep.
For anybody who doesn't know what a do-gooder is, a do-gooder is somebody that helps the environment, whether they pick up trash on the beach or if they, like a couple weeks ago, it doesn't matter their name now, but two friends of mine, Robin Neighbor and Neil Neighbor, they got it for cleaning up the Everglades canals when they go bass fishing and stuff.
Yep.
They come back with garbage cans full of stuff and suitcases and all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah, it's important. It's important to do that, and it's important for those that do that to be recognized as well.
No doubt. I mean, it's more important that they do it, but everybody enjoys being recognized. What the heck?
Yeah, and I think it's pretty cool. All their products are environmentally friendly.
Oh yeah,
and they care about the environment, and they care about the fisheries and saving the natural resources.
That's Starbright you're talking about.
Yeah,
great company.
Yeah, absolutely. And
really
anyone actually, to be honest with you, any sponsor or anyone that we deal with or that's associated with this show, has that mission near to their heart. So. Yeah.
Well, Papa's Pilar is real involved in the regrowing the corals and stuff too.
Yep, absolutely.
A lot of great things going on.
Absolutely, and not only that, they give to a lot of great organizations,
yes,
like Captains for Clean Water and others around, and they support the CCA and all the other good things that they do too. So, it's cool because we, as a company and as a show, Connected by Water, it's something that we firmly believe in, and and we're happy and proud of our sponsors because they firmly believe in it too. So it makes sense for us. It's all on brand. It's all online. So
it's a great step toward the future.
Book number 5.
That's
I hold in my hand, by author Bouncer Smith, with a lovely cover illustrated by our good friend R.J. Boyle.
And I have to mention one thing.
Yes.
That this is a great book, but it would never go anywhere without Pat Mansell, because he turns my tape recordings into the English language.
Okay. Into the English language?
Well, yeah, I turn on a tape recorder and I tell a fish story.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty raw. He comes along and he turns it into proper English. Or
crosses the T's and dots the I's, as they say.
Yeah, makes sentences out of run-alongs.
Okay. And who's this?
Pat Mansell.
Patrick
Mansell.
Not to be confused with Johnny Manziel, right?
No, I think it's spelled different too.
Good. He's lucky one.
But Patrick's got a ton of books.
Yeah.
He did the Bimini Twist series, which was great reading for young readers. All about him and his sons is the basis of the stories, but they catch drug smugglers and sunken treasure people, and they go to Hawaii, and it's really great series of books. And then my favorite book by Patrick Mansell, second only to my 5, was he did one called The Father's Club.
The Father's Club.
It was all about you. Well, not you, because you don't have that problem yet, but you as a father with young teenagers dealing with, this was set in a small town, but all the parents in the town dealing with the issue of drugs invading their neighborhood. Really, really neat book, The Father's Club.
Interesting.
By Patrick Mansell.
Yeah, that's a big problem right now.
Yeah.
I mean, like epidemic problem.
Oh, and you think it's a problem in the big city, but then you hear about the little town with 1,000 people out in the Midwest someplace, or the out
I think
west.
it's kind of worse there in a
It's
lot,
actually
in a lot of
worse
ways
in a
per
lot of-
capita, right?
Yeah, it certainly is.
It's scary stuff.
They got
It's-
nothing better to do.
That's the
Exactly.
problem.
That's what I mean. Per capita, it's.
That's why it's always
That's why you
great.
need to fish more.
That's why it's always great when you run into a 10 or 15-year-old that just lives to fish.
Yeah. Yep.
Ooh, that
So
can
good
be your
to
next
encourage
slogan. Smoke the fish and not rock.
I like it. There you go. Good. Put it on a T-shirt, Carlene.
Don't you
can
know
wear it
about
on the next
catch and
podcast.
release?
No,
You
I
can't
don't know about
smoke 'em
smoke and
all.
rock.
All right. So anyway, I wanted to first discuss that you and I have been together like all day long right now.
Yes, we have.
For anyone who has listened to the show for a long time, they may have picked up on the fact that we record our episodes on Monday afternoons, right? But we've been together since the sun came up this morning, and we were fishing.
Are
And
you sure the sun was up?
well, since,
I think sunrise is after 7:30.
yeah.
And we were together about 7:15.
Yeah, sorry. So we were since before the sun came up. This is everyone's gonna correct Dennis Day, right, Carlene?
No, I just
Just stick the camera on her face right now. Yeah, okay. So it was cool. We got to take my daughter out today, right?
she's the greatest.
And it really is a special moment for me that I think it's one of those moments for me that she doesn't realize it yet, but she's going to be able to look back on it as she gets a little older and say, man, that was really cool. I hope she looks at it like that at least.
She
That
will.
my dad took me out with Bouncer, and that's kind of where I really learned how to fish, because we see her kind of blossoming and developing
she's
into
a
an
great
angler.
making great progress.
Yeah, so she's been doing really good. So and it really means the world to me that we could take her out with you. But you've been doing this for a long time, taking kids fishing, and it's something
Love
that
it.
brings you a lot of joy. And I think that's one of the best qualities and traits about you. And
Well, thank you.
one of the reasons why not only myself but many people love you, just because the good you show in the community. We talked about the past, all the good things that you do, environmentally and for the goals of conservation and protecting our fisheries. And one of the great and grand, wonderful things that you do is teaching the next generation, proper ways of being on the water, being good stewards of the water, how to correctly be an angler, and just the ins and outs of it. And you go through that in this book. Now, this is the 5th book
That's correct.
that you've created, and
That's
just came out with it when? Last week?
Well, I picked up my first 10 copies a week ago, and I picked up 20 copies today. So that's how fresh it is.
All right. And what I'd like to do today is kind of just go through this book for
All
the
right.
audience.
That sounds good.
And maybe, thumb through it and say,
Yeah.
because this is just chock full of stories,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Well,
And I think if you've never read a Bouncer Smith book, you really need to. And I can attest to this just because you are in our, for you always struggle to call it industry, but in our world, or little biosphere of
Our connected
marine
by
industry,
water world.
rare connected by water world, you're the best storyteller we got, right, for sure. And we're
it's
always
getting
proud.
deep now. Can I get a bigger headset?
We're always proud to have you on. So, as I was, because you brought me this book today, and you signed it for me, which I thank you. And that was the first thing that we noticed. Like, wow, you got all these really cool stories. This is just story after story, and you have so many stories to share. And we're a podcast, so
Like
hey,
I said, I like to talk.
Yeah.
I mean, tell stories.
well, that's great. I mean, you got little stories in here. There's one called Kids, and there's one Mako ate sailfish, and the monster amberjack, and Henry Snook, and you got all these things. And you remember all these stories about these kids and everything, and what they experienced. So
Henry Snook
there you go. Take
was
me through
one
that
of the
one.
biggest disasters in my fishing career.
Really, what happened?
They started a new organization called Fish to Make a Difference.
Mm-hmm.
A guy named Clay Barker started it. And he got hooked up with Joe DiMaggio Children's Hospital.
Okay.
And he called me up and he says, I want to arrange to take kids fishing when they're well enough in their cancer treatment to get out for a few hours. So he says, I got a kid named Henry. I'd like to bring him out. I says, well, let's go. He said, I can only fish for an hour or two. I says, well, let's go late in the afternoon and we'll see what we can catch. So as it turned out, the tide was going out. We had some live herring and we went to the inlet. The first drift, Henry catches about a 25-pound snook. And the next drift, we hook a big barracuda.
I thought you said this was a disaster story.
Like, it's disastrous.
Okay.
My mate is A.B. Raymond.
Mm-hmm.
A.B. is 18 years old, maybe 19.
Also, A.B. from a long time ago.
Yeah, when he first started with me. So at any rate, we take Henry, he catches a big snook, his dad catches a big barracuda. We go to the bent range marker, and Henry and his little brother catch a bunch of blue runners on light spinning rods. And it's really, really a great trip. And Mom says, okay, we got to wrap it up. That's about all the excitement Henry can handle. So we called it a day. So when you take a Make-A-Wish trip and you take a kid fishing and the family fishing, you might get a letter from a nurse or somebody, thank you so much for taking this kid fishing. But you never hear from the family again. You don't know what the outcome is. Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You never hear from them again. Well, here comes Clay Barker 2 weeks later. Gee, it's a shame Henry died. A.B. fell over. I mean, here's a teenager.
Yeah.
He thinks the world of Henry. They had a great time for an hour or two. He's on cloud nine, and then a guy comes down and bursts his bubble.
Yeah.
Really heartbreaking. And
now, do they not tell you what happens on purpose because they don't want you guys to get too emotionally
I think
connected
that's a
like
lot
that?
I think that's a lot of how Make-A-Wish works.
Okay.
They want you to have a good memory of the kid.
Right.
And it's the best thing that can happen. I mean, I had another Make-A-Wish trip. It might be, I'm sure it's in the book, if not this book, one of the other books, where I had a Make-A-Wish trip to go sword fishing. So
Did Make-A-Weight sailfish there? That one?
No, that's
no,
different.
that's a different one. Okay.
They wanted to go sword fishing at night.
For their Make-A-Wish?
Yes.
Wow.
So they were supposed to get to the dockets.
They specifically asked for nighttime sword fishing?
Well, that's what was offered to them, and that's what they accepted. So at any rate, I ran up to the tackle shop at the marina to grab something. I come back down, and my mate Sherman says, we can't take these people sword fishing. This will never work. So the family comes back from going up to the convenience store to get some snacks. And here they come. The Make-A-Wish recipient is 13 years old, and he's got terminal cancer. And he's got his little sister with him, and she's fine. And he's got a typical Midwestern mother. Too many mashed potatoes, but a really sweet lady.
Mm-hmm.
And his grandma. And his grandpa, who has terminal lung cancer.
Oh, my goodness.
And this is a night swordfish trip. And it's blowing 12 to 15 out of the southeast. And the forecast for scattered rain. And I went up to the mother right away. I says, I know you guys signed up for a swordfish trip, but it's going to be rough. And in the best of situations, we might get a couple of bites sword fishing at night. And if we do, it'll take all of you to wind it in. And it's supposed to rain. Can I suggest that we go right outside the inlet here and go tarpon fishing?
Mm-hmm.
So we took them tarpon fishing. And on the first drift, the 13-year-old fights a tarpon, gets right up to the boat. And my mate Sherman tries to grab it by the lower jaw, and that can be rather difficult. And sure enough, it pulls the hook. But it was a catch.
Mm-hmm.
So we're high-fiving and everything else about it. The second drift, we hook a tarpon. and Mom takes the rod. And we go in the channel and we catch the tarpon, and Sherman grabs it by the lower jaw, and we get a picture with Sherman and the kid with the tarpon, and everybody's thrilled. But Grandpa says, "Are we going to catch any fish good to eat?" I said, "Sometimes we catch a snapper or a mackerel or something." He said, "Well, I don't understand catching these big fish, 75-pound fish, and we don't catch anything to eat." I said, "We never know what'll come along next." The next drift, Grandpa catches a 15-pound black grouper on a live shrimp.
Perfect.
That never happens.
Right.
We don't catch 15-pound black groupers on live shrimp, but we did that night. So we threw it in the fish box. So then we caught a mutton snapper, and Grandma caught it, and the little girl didn't care about catching anything, but every time I would make another drift, I'd run around in a big circle at 30 miles an hour, and she just loved that.
Mm-hmm.
And then here comes the rains coming in, and everybody's caught a fish.
And they're thanking you for not being in the middle of the ocean catching swordfish once those rain came, right?
So we head back to the dock. So I talked to Sherman. I says, we thought we were going to fish all night, so we're not booked tomorrow. Why don't we take them out again in the morning? Maybe we can get sailfish or dolphin or something in the daytime.
Right.
He says, "Yeah, that's great with me." So I had told the mother, I says, we could take y'all out fishing again in the morning. She says, "Oh, we'd be so appreciative if you could do that." So we got out in the morning. We had time catching bait. We caught some Speedos. We put the Speedos out. Before long, we got a big old sailfish on. So the 13-year-old's sitting on the back seat fighting it, and Grandpa's sitting next to him and just watching everything he's doing. And we get it up to the boat, and Sherman's leading it, and it takes off on another run. And it runs 200 yards.
Mm-hmm.
And the 13-year-old and Grandpa are bragging about who's going to get to heaven first. That's how sick the two of them
Really?
are. But the kid turns to
So
Grandpa.
they've really just accepted it.
They're very accepting of it.
Wow.
I've been dealing with a kid lately. It's the same way. Just, hey, it is what it is.
Man.
Make the best of what time I have left. But at any rate, the kid turns to Grandpa and he says, "I can't wind this fish in again. Take the pole." So now the kid's in there. "Okay, Grandpa, pull the rod up, pull the rod up, pull the rod. Okay, wind the rod down, Grandpa. Stop winding, Grandpa. Lift the pole up, Grandpa. Pull it up." And Mom's standing next to me taking pictures of the back of their heads. They're sitting on the back bench right behind the helm. And I says, "Mom, you got to go back to the back of the boat and take pictures of them. These are the best pictures you're ever going to get of your boys."
Mm-hmm.
And she went around there and she took a couple pictures on a phone, and she showed, they were going on the mantelpiece for the next 50 years.
Sure.
But at any rate, they got the sail up, and I think it might even be in the book there, but I've got a picture of Sherman and Grandpa and grandson, and the sailfish just warm the cockle of our hearts every time you see it. Just picture perfect. You could ask for no better Make-A-Wish trip.
That's outstanding.
Just fantastic.
This book is filled with so many stories like that because you really have supported these organizations for so many years, and you still are doing a lot.
Every chance
lot
I
of good.
get.
Yeah, every chance you get, and for great reason. You are someone that the type of guy that someone may make the comment, "Oh, this guy's forgotten more fishing than I'll ever know." You've heard that kind of saying
times.
before, right? A couple times.
Times.
But I'm convinced you haven't forgotten any of it. Like every time anyone, like at the drop of a hat, brings up a person, a name, or a story, you just sit there and rattle off the entire thing, and it's great. I don't think you've forgotten any of it.
My father was a legitimate, like your son is a genius.
Yeah.
My father was a genius, and he would read something in a book, and he could read chapter and verse 10, 15 years later.
Mm-hmm.
And I certainly didn't get his smarts, but I got his memory.
You got his memory. And memory's a good thing for a fisherman.
And it's funny because I'll get in discussion with people that I know for sure what happened, and their visualization of what happened is completely changed.
Right.
But it's good that I have books now because I have to admit, at 75, some things are getting just a little grayer than they
Get a
used
little
to.
hazy?
Just
Well,
a little bit.
There's one story I wanted to kind of just. I'm going to read the first line from this next one, just to switch gears a little bit from
Yeah.
from the previous stories that you just told. This one's called the Bob and Judy Lewis Kite Fishing is the title of this chapter, and it starts out back in the early 1950s. Bob Lewis was trolling down to the Ocean Reef Club or the Key Largo Anglers Club, I'm not sure which, for a week of fishing. How does the rest of that story go?
Well, Bob was trolling down. He had blue runners in the live well. They'd troll the reef and catch groupers and barracudas and amberjacks. And he had some blue runners in the well because when he got down near Ocean Reef, he was going to put out live blue runners to try to catch a sailfish. So he puts the blue runners out, and he's nosing to the south, and he sees Tommy Gifford a mile south of him with some red rag up in the air or some flag or something. And every time he turns around, Tommy Gifford's got a sailfish on. So they get to the dock that night, and Bob was very careful to never turn his boat around.
Mm-hmm.
They never did catch a sailfish. But he goes to Tommy Gifford at night, and he says, "How are you catching all them sailfish?" Tommy says, "Come on down here, I'll show you." And Tommy was making kites out of kerchiefs and dowels from the 5 and dime,
Mm-hmm.
and flying a kite and hanging pinfish from the kite, catching sailfish in big numbers. So he gave Bob a kite, and he says, "Here, this one flies, so it'll work for you," because one would fly and 10 wouldn't, and he'd have to take them back apart and put them back together till they would fly. But Bob's father had a heart attack, and he needed some source of income.
Mm-hmm.
So Bob figured out how to make collapsible kites. So he put his father to work making collapsible kites, and Bob would sell them. So his father eventually passed away, and Bob sold the rights to Bob Lewis Kites to Pomponette.
Mm-hmm.
So they did Pomponette fishing kites, and they had like a 10-year exclusive. And their 10 years were up, and Bob had had a heart transplant, and his nurse was Judy Lewis, and they got married. And they started making kites. And in their wedding vows, Bob...
Judy Lewis wasn't Judy Lewis until they got married, though, right?
Right.
Right, okay.
I'm sorry.
I just wanted to make sure.
But at any rate, in their wedding vows, Bob vowed to get her a bonefish, a tarpon, and a sailfish. On their honeymoon, she caught a bonefish. Then they were so busy making kites and selling kites, they were too busy to ever go fishing.
Right.
And I'd ask them repeatedly, "Come on, let's go catch a sailfish for Judy," or "Let's go catch a tarpon for Judy." "No, we're too busy." So I said, "Hey, it's a school day off. The weather forecast is good. I got to take my son out and catch him his first sailfish, but I need an adult to go with me, and my wife's got to work. Would you go with me?" So I conned Bob and Judy into going sailfishing with me to catch my son a sailfish.
Mm-hmm.
So we get out, we put the kite up, and the wind dies completely, drops dead, and nobody fished helium yet. So my son caught a sailfish on a flatline herring, and Judy caught a sailfish on a flatline herring, and my son's buddy caught his first sailfish on a herring on a flatline. All three of them caught their first sailfish ever, with Bob Lewis, the kite man, on flatlines. So
Listen, you're telling this story right now, and I want to maybe point out for the people that don't really understand the magnitude and the gravity of it all,
Yeah.
and you just basically explain the story of the invention of kite fishing,
yeah,
right? But it's a
modern
person.
kite fishing, because kite fishing goes back hundreds of years.
Tell me that.
Well, let me finish this story first.
You tell her. Go ahead. Don't let me interrupt you.
So everybody caught sailfish on flatlines. So when we go tarpon fishing, we always fish flatlines,
Mhm.
whether we're fishing live mullet or live shrimp or whatever. So come on, we got to go catch a tarpon for Judy. No, we're too busy. We're too busy. So I call him up on a Saturday afternoon. I says, Bob, I'm in a real bind. I wrote a story on tarpon fishing for a magazine, but I don't have any new photographs. I got to go catch a tarpon for this magazine article. Can you and Judy go with me Sunday night? Well, yeah, we'll make it work. So we get out there and we're slow trolling live mullet south of Government Cut, and the tarpon are rolling all over the place. And there's 5 or 6 boats there, slow trolling mullet, and nobody's getting a bite. And Bob says, you ever use a kite for tarpon? I says, once in a great while, yeah, but not very often. 5-10 minutes later, Bob says, think there's enough wind for a kite? Yeah, I imagine so, Bob. It's blowing about 12 knots. So I'm driving around, slow trolling mullet, and everybody's driving around. Nobody's getting any bites. Bob says, you got your kites on the boat? I says, oh, yeah, they're down in the cabin for sure. 5-10 minutes goes by. Nobody's getting any bites. Hey, Bob, you want to try the kite? I thought you'd never ask. We couldn't get a bait out on the kite. We put the kite up, threw one mullet overboard, got it 50 feet from the boat, bang, we caught a tarpon.
Really?
Put the kite up again, 50 feet from the boat, bang, caught another tarpon and went home.
That presentation is something else, isn't it?
So I take the Lewises out to catch a sailfish on a kite, and we catch them on flatlines. I take them out to catch a tarpon on a flatline, and we catch them on the kite. So it was pretty good.
That's fantastic. So, I mean, you're bridling these things at this point, right? I mean, was that like something that was just also thought of right away, like with dropping the kites down, and like, I mean, at first are you just like trying to nose hook these things? I mean, or back hook them, or like, did that evolve?
The truth of the matter is that when I was in high school, well, if you want to start from the very beginning,
I'm just highly intrigued by this.
They were kite fishing
because,
in the
I mean, obviously you go on in the book to tell basically the story that you just told here in great detail, but I know I'm picking it apart a little bit, and I want to know a little bit more.
Kite fishing started in Southeast Asia, Polynesian islands or whatever. And I'm very fuzzy on this. I'm not even sure how it worked, but in California, they were trolling for southern bluefins, which they're catching again now. But when they would find the southern bluefin tunas over there, and they tried to drive through them with trolling feathers, they'd spook and go down. So they tried to go around the outside of them, and they had a little bit of luck, but they would spook and go down. So a guy took a box kite and put it up and hung Japanese trolling feathers from it and put it way downwind, and he would go across the wind and troll these Japanese trolling feathers through the schools of bluefin tunas and catch them every pass. So that was the first kite fishing in the United States that I was aware of.
Do you think that Bob Lewis had that insight? Or did he just it all happened?
Well, don't forget, he didn't start it here. Don't forget that Tommy Gifford was already doing it.
Right, I mean, I meant to say Tommy Gifford. Did Tommy Gifford have that insight?
But over the years, I've learned that they also kite fished out of Montauk, New York for something.
Okay.
Way back when. But I don't know whether
From boat or land?
No, from boats.
Okay.
But I don't know if it started in Catalina and then went to Montauk or went from Montauk to Catalina. But modern kite fishing started with Tommy Gifford out of Key Largo using pinfish to catch sailfish. And over the years, after Bob had passed away, Judy called me up and she says, I have made a kite that should fly in 35-knot winds to fish for bluefin tunas off of Nova Scotia. I need somebody to test it. So I took one of her kites with 8 holes in it, about 2 inches in diameter each. And I got on my boat in a blowing northeaster, and I was running up and down Dumfoundling Bay to make 40-knot winds, 50-knot winds, flying her 8-hole kite so that she would know that it would fly for the guys in Nova Scotia.
Mm-hmm.
And the guys in in the west coast of Mexico, and the boats out of San Diego that run down south, they all kite fish or helium fish for the giant yellowfin tunas. And I've kite fished for bonefish where I couldn't get up on a flat. I've kite fished for sea trout on a grass flat. And
How'd that bonefish kite fishing go?
it worked pretty good.
Yeah?
I had a 33-foot dusky. It drew a couple feet of water. I'd get on the edge of a bonefish flat with the right wind direction, and I would put out a shrimp with a 1 ounce lead above it, a few feet,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd put out a mesh bag full of chopped up shrimp, and then I would put out a third line with a shrimp on a 1 ounce lead, and I would have it soaking out there over the flats, and the bonefish would come up, and the shrimp were laying on the bottom, and they'd just come along and eat the shrimp, and we'd have them on.
Probably really great too, because I know bonefish, they spook really easy.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if you're not anywhere near them and you're presented like that,
Yeah, I would think that if I'd have seen any permit back then, I could have kite fished for a permit with live crabs.
right? So
There was
now, there's a lot of slack dropping in the water too.
Well, it depends on how high you fly the kite.
Okay.
And quite frankly, you fish the pin tight enough to hook the fish
Yeah.
before it pops out of the clip anyway. I mean,
Yeah.
nowadays with circle hooks, it's a no-brainer. But there was a guy at the castaways named Chris Blum
Mm-hmm.
who had a lot of trouble with his feet, and he had to quit charter boat fishing offshore, and he was a real good sail fisherman. But he had a bass tackle bait shop on Hollandale Beach Boulevard in south end of Broward County, and he was selling lures and live shiners, and he would book bass charters, and he would go to the canals in Broward County, and he would park his truck on one side of the canal and fly a kite across the canal with live shiners on it and fish for bass with the kite in the canal. So
Sounds fancy.
the
You got
kites,
to tell Bill Lepre about this.
kites have got so many. Yeah, but if you want clowns, you got to get the bait down, go down.
You got to get the yeah.
I caught a tarpon on a kite this past week, a week ago today.
Did you really?
Yeah, I was up this little creek, and there was this 2-inch diameter stick, and I cast my live mullet over the stick and down in the water.
Well, Chippy got one like that today.
And well, I lost one today on the kite.
Yeah.
We would cast through the tree branches,
Yeah.
and we would have our minnows hanging way back in the trees where the minnow couldn't swim out.
Yeah.
That was the concept. And then where we were today, you'd wind and the tree would collapse, and the line would fall off the tree. But with the tarpon, with the 2-inch diameter log, I had the tarpon hanging in the air. We had to drive over with the boat to release the tarpon.
That's great. A few weeks ago, when I was fishing with Derek and his cousin Andrew
Yeah.
Redwine
Yeah.
up there in Merritt Island, we were snook fishing. And Andrew caught one that way.
Yeah.
We're going to skip the DOAs and
Yeah.
underneath the mangroves and stuff. And he, obviously you're always throwing them into the trees.
When we were teenagers, we would fish for snook in the north end of Dade County, and
Yeah.
the shorelines had a lot of Australian pines.
Yeah.
And we would throw a 8-inch mullet over the Australian pine branch and kite fish with a live mullet. And when the snook came up, the pine branch would just drop down and the line would slide right off, and you were in business. So,
Yeah. Perfect.
yeah.
I think that's highly incredible. I just love hearing you talk about the early days of kite fishing. It's such a fairly still, I think, modern kite fishing. It's still a thing it used to be around here in Pompano and Miami. When it all started exploding. Now it's just so commonplace.
Do you know, I don't usually blow my own horn or anything, but if you ask Skip Smith who brought kite fishing to Broward County, it was me.
Yeah.
I don't know why Jack Proctor doesn't get the credit, because Jack Proctor was fishing out of Bahia Mar before I was, and he was kite fishing. But then again, it might be my bad trait that I always want to share what I know. But at any rate, Skip Smith was just barely not a teenager anymore. He worked at BMR, and I was at BMR. And he would come down to me at the end of the dock, and I'd throw his head on the deck and stomp on his hat a few times, and then he'd ask me about kite fishing, and I'd tell him everything I knew about kite fishing. And he said I brought kite fishing to Broward County.
Well, if Skip says that, then no one can doubt it.
Well,
That's for sure, right?
quite an honor to have somebody like, if anybody in the listeners doesn't know, Skip Smith is one of the most innovative fishermen that has ever wet a line.
I mean, he's kind of like the benchmark, right?
He is the benchmark.
Yeah, I mean,
like it.
you know, Skip's the benchmark of I think what every great legendary captain or angler really should strive to be in their lifetimes. I mean, he's really achieved it all. There's nothing. That's a guy that you can really look at and say that you have absolutely nothing left to prove.
Except for that, he's still proving things.
Oh, sure.
He's so innovative. He was.
I mean, he's the one. He's the reason that we have the Tommy Gifford Award in the first place.
Yeah,
that was his brainchild.
Well, no, giving credit where credit's due, that was Mark Sosin's brainchild.
Okay.
Mark Sosin, a long time ago, was fighting for recognition for crew members in the fishing world. And Mark and Skip were good friends, and he kind of got Skip to take it over for him. But then Skip ran with it. It never would have happened without Skip. But Mark put the bug in his ear. So
you have a lot of really great things in this book, and we're going to move on through the book, right? And
how many weeks have we got?
And you got to ask Yanni over there. Oh, Yanni's like, there's a really cool.
Well, you know, I listen to these podcasts, and sometimes I go, is this podcast ever going to end? I hope not, because they're so good.
Well, thank you for saying that.
Especially the rock and roll, which I know nothing about.
Listen, George started it, okay?
I know.
He got me rolling on Pink Floyd. What was it? What was I going to do?
It was such a great show, though.
All right, I'm going to start this chapter here for us. It's page 83, Ron John's Crab. Ron John Cook was a great mate of mine. This time, Ron John and I had a 2-boat trip to Bimini. We were joined by Matt Trambor in one boat, and Ron John and I were on another boat. It was a 2-boat group of guys from Wisconsin.
This is so crazy. So we have my charter boat, which everybody knows that if it exists, bouncers got it. Every rod and reel, every kite, every lure. But the bottom line was that we're on a fully equipped charter boat with 3 or 4 cast nets, and Maddie's on a private boat with no cast nets. So we cast net all of our pilchards in the residential canals in Bimini, and we put them in our well with their sandy keys, and they don't transfer well. So we caught pilchards. We gave the cast net to Maddie. Maddie cast netted pilchards and gave us back the cast net. So then we go fishing for the day, and it's 2 or 3 in the afternoon. We cross paths, and in the course of things, we had netted a bunch of fresh ballyhoo. So Maddie says, "Oh, give me some ballyhoo," because we knew we weren't going to bring over frozen ballyhoo to Bimini. Well, it was catch them over there. So we gave him a couple dozen fresh ballyhoo in a bucket. And he says, "Is that all? I need more." So Ron John grabbed a handful of ballyhoo and threw them at Maddie. And you know how nasty ballyhoo are. Mm-hmm. They have a real diaper problem.
Yep.
And so Maddie gets smushed all over his clothes. So Ron John, I didn't know Maddie real well at the time, but Ron John turns to me and says, "That was a big, big mistake. We're going to pay for that." I said, "Don't we, me? You did it." So at any rate, the next morning, we catch our pilchards. We give Matty the net. He keeps one of the nets. Remember, we got 3 or 4 nets, so it's no big deal. But he keeps one of the nets. So in the afternoon, we get in, and Ron is making conch salad, dicing up the vegetables in the conch, and I'm filleting fish, and Matty and his gang are running around, and pretty soon we all go to dinner. And after dinner, I go up to the room. I'm going to call it a night. They go to the bar. An hour later, hour and a half later, here comes Ron John. Ron John and I are sharing a room. Ron John comes in, and he goes in the head, and he comes out of the head, and he jumps in bed, and he pulls up the covers, and he's, doggone it, goddamn maid, and he throws a towel against the wall. He says, I can't believe she left a damp towel underneath my bedding. Gee, that's a shame, Ron. I don't know what to tell you. So, lights out. Everything's quiet. All of a sudden, I got my back to that bed. All of a sudden, he's screaming and hollering, and I turn around and he's doing crazy dances on the bed. What in the hell's the matter? He settled into bed. And the crab nestled up against his rib cage.
No.
It was a blue crab that had to have a 9 or 10 inch point to point shell width.
Oh.
I mean, it was the big daddy blue crab. Matty had caught it in his cast net. They teased it all day with a bait needle, poking at it and stuff. And he put it in Ron John's bed and put a wet towel over it so it wouldn't die.
Oh, my God.
It was so crazy. So that was Ron John's crab.
That's funny. That's awesome. The revenge stories are always good. There was one we told on this podcast a long time ago that I'm just going to paraphrase the whole thing. But the bottom line is there's a guy named Jim Steele that fishes with Art Sapp and Skip Dana, or used to, they all used to fish together. Jim and Art still fish together on the Native Son. But they played a joke on someone, and someone got them back pretty good by, kind of urinating in their fishing boots in the middle of the night. Yeah, so I'm paraphrasing that, but... Well,
I'll tell you how the Matt Tamber and Ron John thing goes.
Yeah.
Matt was always the instigator. Ron John fell asleep in a Wahoo tournament, sitting in the cabin at night, and he got up to go to bed, and he went down in the stateroom, and he went to kick off his sandals, and he had to come back up in the salon and get a razor blade and slowly cut his sandals off of his feet.
No.
Because Matt had poured crazy glue on his toes with the one post of the sandal here, and the two toes glued together here, and the glue ran down, so his toes were glued to here. And then we were over in Boat Harbor, and Ron John comes down to us. He's so mad. He says, I don't know who did it, but I'm going to find out. But Matty had filled his ears with Neosporin.
No. Neosporin?
Yeah, just heated it up and filled his ears with Neosporin.
My God. A little dangerous?
Couldn't hear it. No, what's wrong with Neosporin?
I don't know. I don't know if they can go in every orifice. Can it?
Just went in his ear. That's all.
All right. I don't know. You can get brain infection or something, right? What?
Nothing.
Put it in a lot of places.
Yeah. Yanni knows every place you could put things.
I don't know. TMI.
All right. Bringing a story that's a little bit closer to home here in Pompano. We're going to talk about the great white shark. All right? And this starts out as in chapter Great White Shark. They're not numbered. Page 117. Just because I want to remind people that we're taking excerpts from your book, because it's easy to forget because you're so great at telling the story. So this one starts out, I was fishing in the Pompano Rodeo with Jim Atria on his boat, the Jennifer Lynn, in the early 1980s. We had fished 3 tournaments in a row. The Miami Billfish Tournament, the Fort Lauderdale Billfish Tournament, and now the Pompano Rodeo, all together on the same boat. The mates had changed, but for this tournament, my mate was Jack Platcher, a famous captain of long time standing over the years, running different kinds of private boats and charter boats as well. What happened?
So the Pompano Rodeo used to be 2.5 days.
Mm-hmm.
So we were fishing with or against the Webb tide, which was Jerry Webb, Terry Guthrie, and Mike Marino. And they were fishing, and the Pompano Rodeo was a kill 'em all, weigh 'em in tournament back then. And they were going for sailfish and kingfish, and I don't think blackfin tunas counted back then, but they might have. But at any rate,
In the rodeo?
they were fishing the reef, and we were going offshore looking for a blue marlin, trolling marlin baits every day. So the first day we caught a big white marlin. Matter of fact, I think it's still the tournament record for the Pompano Rodeo, and a couple of big dolphin. And after 2 days, we meet at a restaurant for breakfast. It might have been a ranch house or something, somewhere in Pompano. And we're all eating breakfast together. And this guy walks up and he says, "You guys look like fishermen." "Yeah, we are." He says, "Fishing rodeo?" "Yeah, we are. How you doing?" And Jerry Webb says, "Well, not very well." The guy says, "Why? What's going on?" He says, "Well, we hear people calling in fish all day. They're catching a lot of fish. We're catching a fair amount, but nothing like these other boats." Well, they had never fished the Pompano Rodeo. You know, every fish has to be called in. They all have to weigh 10 pounds, and they call in the 7-pounders just like they do the 10-pounders. So at any rate, the guy says, "What's the name of your boat?" Jerry says, "It's the Webb Tide." The guy says, "Man, you're in first place." "Really?" "Yeah." And he says, "What's your boat?" I says, "We're on the Jennifer Lynn." He says, "Man, you're in second place. They're ahead of you by 39 pounds. So now we go out on the last day, and they go up north on the reef, and we head straight offshore again. And I'm about 20 miles offshore, going right straight into the morning sun. "Hey, Jack, there's an oil slick off the bow." "Okay, everybody liven up." That means that there's a small but intense slick, which means something has been killed, whether it's a flying fish or a swordfish. There's an oil slick in the water. And now I'm going straight in the sun. I can't see much. "Hey, Jack, something just popped up in the slick. I think we got a swordfish kill." So now Jack immediately starts making a 039 piano wire leader with a 14-0 hook. And we got brand new 80-pound outfits on the boat, a brand new line on our 80-pound outfits. So he winds one in, he puts the wire leader on it, and he tells the boss, "Stand over on the side, on the rail, you know, in the cockpit, and gaff anything that comes by with the flying gaff." So I'm going straight into the sun, and then it's going underneath the bow, and I can't see what I'm doing, but I know that it's going to come right down the side of the boat. And next thing I know, Jim Atry is hollering for help. I turn around, he's got a big swordfish T-boned on the flying gaff. So I bump the boat in reverse to stop the forward motion, and we open the door, and we drag the swordfish in the boat. It's got no bill. It's got no tail fin, but it's quivering. It's still quivering. And I go back up on the bridge. Swordfish is laying in the cockpit. Here comes this huge shark. "Where'd my breakfast go?" I says, "Jack, the biggest mako you ever saw is behind the boat." So we cut off a piece of swordfish meat and tried to get him to eat it, and he wouldn't eat it.
Mm-hmm.
And he was going around the boat, and he'd come over and look at this strip of swordfish. He wouldn't eat it. So Jack, gut the swordfish, throw some guts in the water. Don't throw the heart or the liver in, but leave the fillet on there, but add the heart to the hook. He threw some guts in, ate the guts immediately, threw the bait back in with the heart on there, ate it immediately. "Okay, Jack, he's coming right at us. We're not going to set the hook. Okay, he's 9 degrees. We'll wait till he turns away, and then I'll gun the boat ahead and we'll hook him." So I wait till he turns all the way around, going straight away from us. I dump the engines in gear. The boss is sitting in the chair. Jim's sitting in the chair. setting the hook on this 80 with 20 pounds of drag, lines peeling off the reel. I stop, the shark turns around and comes right back to the boat.
Really?
So I wait till he turns a little bit, and I gun the boat ahead, and we're jerking and everything. Stop the boat, and here he comes again. And I gunned the boat ahead again, and he came off. 39 inches from the hook. The wire, this 039 wire is like almost like coat hanger wire. It's piano wire. It's bent about like that. Where it had been down in his gullet, and we had wrapped that wire right around his jaw. So all of our jerking was on the bend of the wire instead of on the hook. And when we set the hook the third time, he was looking right at us. Just opened his mouth and the thing popped out. And he came right back to the boat. And I says, you want to try him again, or you want to try to win the tournament? Everybody unanimously says, oh, we wasted enough time. Let's go win the tournament.
Yeah.
So we took off trolling. Wasn't 10 minutes. Get a big wahoo. Call our buddies on the reef, on the web tide. I called the committee boat. We caught a nice wahoo. The web tide calls. How big is the wahoo? I says, it's going to be really close if you haven't caught anything.
Mm-hmm.
So fishing ended at 12:30 or something like that.
So it's at least like 35 to 40 pounds.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So line's out of the water, tournament's over. The web tide and the Jennifer Lynn and a couple other boats the Quetzal have to report to the main weigh-in station, because there were 3 weigh-in stations, for the press and for polygraphs and everything. So at any rate, the web tide calls me. How big's your wahoo? I says, 60, 65 pounds. Congratulations, we'll see you tonight. And they turned their radio off.
No. They never weighed the fish?
No. They thought they didn't catch a fish the last night.
Oh, okay.
But they thought we beat them. So as we're pulling up to the weigh-in, they're pulling away. Don't leave, come back. I was joking. And they drive off. We'll see you tonight. The wahoo weighed 38.5 pounds.
Oh, they won by a half pound.
Now, giving sidebar to the story, we called the fish market, Portugal Seafood. What are you paying for swordfish? And they said $3 a pound, cored out. Shark bites are $1 a pound. So we knew that shark bites paid less because they'd been soaking on a long line all night.
Mm-hmm.
We knew that our swordfish had been boated, still quivering, heart still pumping, and we'd immediately iced it down. So we had to cut off our fish at the anal opening, cut all the fins off and gut it, cut it off at the collar,
right,
and take it to Port of Call.
Sounds like a night hanging out with Carlene.
Well, that plug from the anal opening to the collar was 300 pounds. So that swordfish was way over 500.
8 inches from the bottom.
I had to get her going.
I'm not getting in the middle of this TMI stuff. I'm sorry. I'm a very clean-cut, innocent boy. I don't know what you're talking about.
Pretty clean cut.
What'd you say?
This book has chock full of great stories. Listen.
I'm sure glad to put the story about the kingfish isn't in there, because the kingfisher would really get out of control. You don't want to hear about the kingfish? Here, let me close the book. Would you like to hear about the kingfish?
Oh, do tell.
Tell me
then.
about
Please
the
do tell about
right, you can't set it up like that and not tell me the story. Now
No.
listen.
Now, bear in mind, I've done 5 books, me and Pat Mansell. The first book, I'm not sure whether it's PG-13 or R. I can't figure it out because I haven't read the story in a while. But the bottom line is that early in my career, I was mating and running a 48-foot Carolina boat called the Top Look. And the owner of the boat, who ran the boat once in a while, he had been a Ford mechanic before he became a commercial king fisherman, before he became a charter boat captain. And one of his old buddies called from Jackson, Mississippi, and started booking us to go to Bimini all the time. So we had a Ford dealer from Jackson, Mississippi, and a Cessna dealer from Jackson, Mississippi, and they were both in their 50s, and they always brought a couple of 20-year-old nieces with them, and a pilot to fly the plane. And we would get on the boat to Castaways, and the rule was if the girls could not see the dock, they could not wear any clothes.
Really?
And we also went to Bimini, and they'd be that way for a week. But at any rate, if they couldn't see the dock, they couldn't wear any clothes. So
Whose rule is this?
the charters, the guys from Jackson, Mississippi.
Okay.
But I thought it was a
Are
pretty
there a
good
lot
rule.
of girls on? You thought it was a good rule?
Yeah, I thought it was real good. There were
Okay.
always a couple of nieces, sometimes 3 nieces
Okay.
would come. Now, one year
You listen to this, Carlene?
this vending machine operator from New Jersey, he had a very bent nose.
Okay.
He came down early, and he said, send your nieces down early. I'll pay their airfare to fly commercial
Sure he will.
Horse.
for the nieces to come. What'd you say?
Nothing. I'm just
Did you miss the part about what the rule on the boat is?
No, if you can't see shore, you can't get dressed.
Okay.
That-
All
No,
right.
you
That's a
can't
given.
wear clothes.
Can't wear
But
clothes.
I don't wear clothes on my husband's boat anyway, so it's okay.
This is
I'm
on
just
a charter
making
boat.
sure that you got the
This
full
This is on a
context of
charter
the
boat with
story.
a clean-cut 19-year-old boy on
It
board.
is clean cut, and he is like a 19-year-old boy. He's 8 years younger than me. What are you? It's all irrelevant.
So at any rate, now we've got the guy from New Jersey, 2 girls from Jackson, Mississippi, and we're slow trolling live blue runners right in front of Haulover Inlet.
Okay.
And these big smoker kings are biting.
Haulover Inlet.
Yes.
Naked
Was George
anyways.
Pavaromo there?
No, he was off that day.
Okay.
He was too young to go fishing. He might have gone with his daddy to go for bluegills.
I can't imagine George Pavaromo too young.
Well, I said he might have gone for bluegills.
Okay.
But at any rate, we're solo trolling right in front of Haulover Inlet with live blue runners catching big smoker kingfish. And it just so happened, a book had just come out by a lady of the evening, Xavier Hollander, and the book was The Happy Hooker.
Okay.
And Xavier was a madam in New York. And we have these 2 nieces on board who can't afford clothes. And you know what a 10-inch flying gaff hook looks like?
Whoa.
Well, this 10-inch flying gaff hook with no rope and no handle was the envy of every 19-year-old boy you ever met that day.
Sure
Not
was.
the naked chicks on board.
What?
Not the naked girls.
They were having a lot of fun with it,
Okay.
but I was wishing I was a
Ouch.
flying gaff hook.
Ooh. Where's the Neosport in this story?
They were not using the pointed end. They were using the...
Either way, that's.
It's not making my book R-rated or GP.
I think it makes it
And you're
excellent
talking
rated.
about what happens when the camera's off in the studio. He's, Jesus, bouncer. I can never look at you the same again after this.
I didn't do anything. I was just a jealous little boy.
Man.
Proceed.
Well, I finished the story.
That's the end of it.
Oh, no, it got better. That's right.
Well,
We're right in front of the inlet. So here comes this charter boat.
They hit a wake. Ouch. And then.
No, here comes this charter boat out of Haulover, which was Castaways, the high-class boats. Haulover was low-class boats. Here comes one of these low-class boats out of Haulover, and the captain's in his 70s. And he comes, he looked over at our boat. He was going next to us. He was running out. He looked over at our boat, and he made a big U-turn. He came right back, and he came right up between our rigger lines, right up to the back of our boat, and he's fly bridge like this, watching the girls who were sitting on the fish box with the 10-inch flying gaff hook. And they're holding the book in their hand, of course, for the pictures, you know.
It's outstanding. So I'm going to do something that I've never done on this show before. No. No. No, negative writer. So I would, and the reason I have to do this is because I need to take a break real quick. Carlene, can you come sit here in this seat?
Oh, boy.
And Bouncer's going to tell the next story.
Told you not to eat that wahoo today.
Right? And the Bouncer is going to tell the next story.
This must be a very important phone call if he's walking away from me.
Floating Dreams.
Oh, that's not a story.
No, all right, then we'll pick it. They'll pick a different one.
No, we can do Floating
The Porpoise
Dreams.
and
It's
Ron Taylor and England.
No, it's okay.
Is it all right?
Yeah.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, Carlene Rybinski, the world's greatest bartender.
And I'll tell you what, she was the best-looking woman at the IGFA the other night.
About it.
Thank you.
No doubt about it. Put the microphone up high enough now. Did you ever wear a microphone before?
See, he's telling me get it closer to my mouth right off the bat. This is so weird.
Well, they
Bouncer.
taught me. So he wants me to do Floating Dreams. Floating Dreams is kind of boring after the last story. But Floating Dreams is basically about floating debris in the ocean. And one of my favorite floating dreams, which was kind of a floating nightmare, it was so foggy or smoky or whatever it was, you could not see land from 5 miles offshore. And we didn't have GPS back then. We navigated by guess and by golly. And I'm out dolphin fishing with Al Hauer and his wife Jeannie and another couple. And I find the belly of a fixed gear airplane. The two wheels sticking up in the air. And half of the numbers, the bottom half of the numbers are there, but not the top half. So you kind of have to guess what the numbers are. But anyway, we trolled by it, and it was the most phenomenal fishing you ever want to ask for. Big dolphin and big rainbow runners, and just every pass was productive for quite a while. And I called the Coast Guard, and I says, I found the belly of a fixed-wing airplane out here. They said, where are you at? And I says, I think I'm about 10 miles off a haulover inlet. And they says, well, what's your Loran A say? I says, we don't have a Loran A. He says, well, how are we supposed to find you in the fog if you don't even know where you're at? I says, well, I found an airplane. That's all I know. So that was a fiasco. But my favorite floating dreams, I'm out on a charter, and way off in the distance, I see a bunch of bird activity. So I head over there, and I get within, we'll say, a quarter of a mile, or no, half a mile maybe, and I can see this big bulk sticking out of the water. And I get closer, and it's a huge tree, as big as the biggest banyan tree you ever saw, floating in the water. And I fished that spot probably 3 hours. And I never got within 100 yards of that tree. I filled my fish box right to the lid. I pulled my fish box out, and I filled an equal space behind my fish box all the way up to the lid of the cooler. And I pulled the cooler out again, and I filled it up with fish again, and I finally went home. I never got to the tree. Unbelievable fishing. Wahoo and dolphin, just one right after another. It was just the most insane thing. And then I went to South Pass, Louisiana in 1971, June of 1971. I was hired by the guys with the nieces from Jackson, Mississippi. No, these guys didn't have the harpoon. I mean, the flying gaff hook. It was the guy from Jersey who had the hook. Same girls, different men.
Two girls.
Yes,
Two girls,
yes,
one hook.
Yes.
Sure.
So anyway, they hired me to be the fishing consultant / mate. And We met the boat in Biloxi, Mississippi, and we ran down to Port Eade, South Pass, Louisiana, and we're going to fish this all species. Like it was the Gulfport Rodeo, which means you could catch anything, it would count practically. So at any rate, we're going to fish the Gulfport Rodeo, and I make up all these baits, and we get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and we head out the Mississippi River, and we're running off, and we're about 25 miles offshore, and the guy comes down, he says, get ready to put them out. There's a beautiful weed line. Well, the water went from this color to
That color.
Something
it went
tannic.
from this color to this color. Maybe this color to this color. From brown to light brown. Nice weed line. And they want me to fire the baits out. And they're howling, there's tuna jumping all over the place. So I put all these baits out, we troll for an hour, we don't get a bite. I never saw a tuna jump. The water was terrible. I says, we got to go further out. So we ran 65 miles. And I forget the details, but I think we caught a sailfish and a wahoo and a dolphin or something. And we, at the end of the day, we go back to the dock, back to South Port Eads. So the next day, or that night over dinner, I said, we have got to go find the blue water. So the next morning we left at 3 o'clock, and 100 miles offshore, we found a rip that the weed was so thick, the captain was afraid to drive the 41 Hatteras through the weed line. He drove down the weed line till he found a break in the weed line where a ship had gone through or something, and went through the break, and we put the baits out. You've never seen any better dolphin fishing in your life. We caught so many dolphin over the next 2 days that we were cutting up a bed sheet and putting new skirts on trolling lures out of bed sheet. 30, 40, 50-pound dolphin, one right after another. Caught a nice blue marlin. That's a whole other story, the blue marlin, because it was really crazy.
That's an amazing story. Why don't you tell us the Blue Marlin story?
Well, I haven't finished the first
Okay.
one. So I'm going to tell the blue marlin story. You talked me into it. So we're trolling along, and I got a mackerel on the right long rigger, and I pull the outrigger down, and I put the line in the clip, and I pull the bait in closer to the boat, and pull the rigger back up some. Pull the bait closer to the boat, and pull the rigger back up, and all of a sudden, bam! Weeds catching in the water. Doggone it. It's got a big ball of weed on it. It jerks like crazy, so I jerk back, and I pull the rigger up the rest of the way, and I go to pull on it, and it jerks again. And I look back there. Here's a blue marlin doing everything in his power to eat a peck of seaweed and a Spanish mackerel. And I'm trying to take the bait away from him. We caught the blue marlin. But that was
I think it's so incredible. This is the first time, Bouncer, that I've... Actually, one time I've been behind the bar was when all the Papa's we did the whole Papa's thing. Your first ever podcast in here, right?
Yeah.
It was the only time I've ever been behind them. But this is actually the only time. Did I make a horrible drink for you?
This sucks. I'm sorry. This sucks.
I don't know what first thing about gin.
I told
Sorry.
you to use the Polar.
I'm not drinking gin. It's Polar. What are you giving me gin for? This
I
is
don't know. Maybe that's why
I
I
told you to
You're
use
fired.
the Papa's Polar.
The
What's the
wrong
matter
thing.
with you?
I don't know. I just grabbed the bottle that was up here and I said this and this, and she went, yeah. So it was like that. Anyway,
At any rate,
Just throwing me under the bus in front of the sponsors. Thanks,
what
buddy.
happens when we don't drink Polar? I'm just saying this is a really interesting perspective to have on the show. Is just to be up here and just watching you all. From
well,
here.
I'll tell you one
I
thing.
can't say that I necessarily.
I'll tell you one thing. I wish you'd quit distracting us because I'm sitting across from a beautiful woman,
You're
and you want me
darn
to look
tootin'.
at you while you're talking.
I don't want you to look. That's
He sees me in a dress
I stand
one
corrected,
time.
sir.
No, you've always looked beautiful.
Thank you.
But anyway, getting back to these dolphins.
You want to come back behind the bar?
I want a good drink.
Well, maybe you should come back here and make your own. Let's switch. Let's switch. Unless you want to stay there.
Help.
All right,
He's going back up there again.
All right, go ahead, Bouncer. Proceed.
So, at any rate, so now we've got this freezer, this walk-in cooler, full of giant dolphin, tunas, wahoo, blue marlin, white marlin, everything. And we called the rodeo headquarters, and we said, we have a ton of fish. We have not weighed in daily. Are we eligible for master angler? How many anglers are on the boat? 2. Are the only ones catching fish? Yes. Well, then just bring all your fish in tomorrow, and we'll split it in half, and you'll be eligible for master angler. Now we have now blown an engine, by the way, on the way home. The second day coming in from 100 miles offshore, about 95 miles from shore, we blew an engine. So we're pretty slow. But at any rate, we take all those fish out of the ice house and pile it in the cockpit and put some ice on it and put a canvas over it and start chugging to Gulfport, Mississippi. Gulfport, Louisiana. And by the time we got to Louisiana, which normally they have a truck come down from New Orleans and pick up the fish and take it back to New Orleans and distribute it up there to orphanages. We brought it to the Gulfport Rodeo, and they said, oh, no, you're not eligible to win the Master Angler. You didn't weigh your fish in every day. And the fish went bad. Criminal. But we did win.
So you're out of luck.
No. We won the Blue Marlin, the top 4 dolphin, and I think it was a white marlin herself. I don't remember. We won everything but the master angler. We had a table like this that was just trophies from one end to the other.
Well, it sounds a little shady to me. I mean, it sounds like that.
Well,
I don't know. You won every category, and you're not the master angler.
No, because they have to weigh in every day.
That's what I say to that.
You know, rules are made to be rules. If you want to win tournaments, let me tell you something. If you want to win tournaments, you better read all the rules.
That is for sure.
We fished a club outing.
That is for sure.
We fished a club outing in Chub Cay, and we're taking this 36 Hatteras to Chub Cay, and it's a rod and reel club outing. And I run the boat over there with my mate, and we get tied up, and the customers come on board. We're going to fish for barracudas. What? We need 2 barracudas on every class of tackle, from 8-pound spin, 10-pound spin, 12-pound plug, 15-pound plug, 8, 12, 20, and 30-pound general. And then if we aren't done yet with 2 of each per angler, then we'll fly fish the rest of the day. And all we did was catch and release barracudas, except for that we put a couple out as teasers to help raise more barracudas.
Really?
And I was so on my Chub Cay fishing for barracudas.
Yeah, right.
So one of the rules of the Miami Beach Rod and Reel Club is that the scorekeeper cannot share any information about what's being turned in. So
that's interesting.
Saturday night, they have the awards ceremony. And first place in the Blue Marlin division is Joe Schmo with 2 Blue Marlin at 200 points apiece for 400 points. Yay! Boy, that guy must have won the whole thing. He must have cleaned house. Second place Master Angler. One of my customers. That guy had 400 points. 3,800 points. What in the world? First place angler. 5,200 points. What? Blue Marlin, on 30
Mm-hmm.
were 200 points for a release. Every Barracuda was 200 points.
Come on.
Every Barracuda.
Come on.
Needless to say, the next year when we went back, Barracudas didn't count.
Oh my!
So the
come
next
on.
year, we went bone fishing and mackerel fishing and dolphin fishing and barracuda. No barracudas didn't count. Snappers and groupers, and we won the whole thing. And then they had another tournament a couple of years later in Bimini, and they changed the rules again. So we fished all plug-in spin and fly on the shallow wrecks, and we beat everything again. And the next year they said, okay, we're going to have a junior angler tournament. So we took a kid with us. And we drove him crazy.
Listen, I want to summarize this real quick. Like my perspective on everything that's happened here tonight, right? And actually probably beyond all that. Because there's a bunch of different ways I can like put perspective on this. Not only just this episode, but you and what you've meant to Connected by Water and what you've meant to this show. And the reason that we have you on so much is we've discussed at length, and I know you roll your eyes when I say this, what a legend you are. Okay? It is true. All right? You've been awarded as such by many organizations, so that needs to be an accepted outcome. Okay? I know. Big head, right? So that needs to be an accepted outcome. You've written 5 books. This is your 5th book. And one of the reasons why I wanted to go through this, and one of the reasons why I made the comment earlier about the whole forgotten more fishing than, you know what I mean, than most people ever know, but you haven't forgotten the damn thing, right? And, saying things like, the greatest storyteller, in our landscape or our biosphere and all that. And all these things are very true. But I want to really just put a little perspective on it for us, and what we're trying to bring to the table by bringing you on the show all the time is just, you are really, really just a gem and a special person. And it's for me, it's just an honor to know you. Right? And it's an honor really to call you friend.
Well, that feeling's mutual.
And
I feel the same way about you.
And that just gives me goosebumps when you say that. It really does, because I love you, Bouncer.
I love you too.
I really do.
I like Carly more though.
Carlene.
Who's
Carly? Does she cook? Can she be our nanny?
I don't know. Do you cook?
I do.
I thought you said the lasagna was all dried out.
It's because I had it set in the oven and they came home from softball for 45 minutes later.
Did you want to say something, Dennis?
I just want to say that I cherish every moment with you.
Likewise.
And I really do. And every episode that you come on is just appreciated and just the most special moments for us. And we like to have a good time, and we like to joke around, and we love to hear your stories, and that's what friendship's all about. And I love that we can be as casual with you, and it really does mean a lot. And I hopefully our listeners appreciate that and get into it. I believe they do. It's just, I just want to thank you for just giving us your time again. Really.
Well, I absolutely love every minute I spend with any of this gang. I mean, you always hang around with the best people. You are the best people. And it's always great to be around you. And I love coming in here, and I love going fishing with you.
Yeah, likewise. And that's the thing, too. That's another thing, too. Is like, for crying out loud, I mean, just as many times as we've fished together over the past couple of years has just been the greatest for me.
No
and again, how we started this podcast out is how we'll finish it. I just wanted to just thank you for just being such a great influence to my daughter, and showing her the ropes and helping her along, and as we kind of build this fishing life, for her. And I know she appreciates it and she enjoys it. She didn't hesitate. I said, "Hey, you want to go fishing with me next Monday?" She goes, "Eh." And I go, "Well, it's with Bouncer." She goes, "Oh, okay." So it's great to see.
Well, that means a lot to me.
It's great to experience it and live it and all
You
that.
bet.
So and it's been absolutely wonderful. So this kind of wraps up not only our podcast, but your trip here to South Florida this time around. You came down and you went fishing with a bunch of friends, and you made your rounds. You hung out with Chip Sheehan and Angie, and you did some fishing with them, and you fished with Marco Arnaldi and Sebastian, and you're going to be heading back there on your way back home to Georgia, where you've retired to. But we miss you greatly down here.
Well, I can't wait to get down again. But
yeah, we
I've
can't
already
wait to
been
have you
talking
again.
to your staff about getting together in January. So
Yep.
I'll be down here at the end of January. We got some old customers I'm fishing with, A.B. Raymond, and I'm doing a seminar in Fort Lauderdale with Skip Smith.
Oh, are you really?
That
Cool.
should be crazy.
Excellent.
And then I was talking to Mark Ellert from Guy Harvey Resorts,
Mm-hmm.
trying to put together a seminar with him. So
Excellent. Excellent.
there's nothing better than sharing.
Well,
whether
see,
it's
that's
with
the
a kid
thing.
or with
Sharing
anybody.
is caring.
The sharing is caring,
Very
and
true.
and that's what these books are all about. So, listen, I want to just please everybody, if you get a chance, if you liked what you heard here today, and you want to hear more about these stories in great detail, we've only shared a handful of them that were in this book
no
today.
doubt.
There's so much more, so many more fun stories. There's so many more ways to learn about Bouncer Smith and all the great things he does in the community, all the great things you've done in the past about the community, and all the things that you still continue to do. And it's just absolutely wonderful to know you and call you friend. I can't say that enough.
Shameless plug, if anybody's trying to find those books, they're
Mhm.
sold on Amazon.
Yep.
And again, they're
So this one's called Wanted Reward.
no, it's called Bouncing Around.
It's bouncing around. Okay, but it says it's like a wanted poster.
Well,
Right.
we were talking about ours rendition of my face, and R.J. Boyle said, "What if we make it into a wanted poster?"
Mhm.
There it is.
Perfect. Sounds good. So go on Amazon, pick it up, buy the book, support our good friend Bouncer, and
It's a very good book, I might add, because we have the special paper.
mhm.
After you get done reading it, you can use it in the bathroom. Oh, you can read it in the bathroom. They're short stories.
All right, Bounce.
It's always a pleasure.
Always a
I
pleasure.
love you.
Love you too. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you for having
We're
me.
going to end this how we always do. Your ego. It's not your amigo. Always do your best. And at the end of the day, just let God do the rest. And do not ever forget that no matter where we are, no matter what we're doing, Carlene is always connected by water.